what we are going to get by using Spring Web Module when comparing with the servlets. Okay, so those kind of discussion we started yesterday, and we will see what is exactly the Spring Web Framework, or why Spring Web Framework is going to be called as MVC module also, or MVC framework also. Okay, what is the meaning of MVC? What we are going to do along with MVC in Spring Framework, what Spring Framework is suggesting. So we are going to see everything in today's session. So in yesterday's session, we just reminded the details about the HTTP protocol, client, server, okay, and how we are creating how we are creating the URI patterns, and with respect to HTTP methods. So those are all details we discussed yesterday. What you know from the servlets, we just reminded. So you know the meaning of client, you know the meaning of server, right? So what is the meaning of server here? Server in the sense, is it really server or an application? An application deployed at the server side. Okay, an application deployed inside the server. That's why simply people will call it as server, but it doesn't mean like server. Oh, it's an application, whatever the servlet application, whatever the Python application, whatever it is, .NET application. Okay, so we just reminded, that's what we understood, what we did in the servlets level, what you have done and everything. We just reminded. And request and responses, you know the request and responses now, right? So what is the request, what is the response and everything in a servlets oriented? Okay, so we understood a scenarios or couple of scenarios. We taken kind of use cases when you want to implement 100 functionalities or 100 URI patterns. Okay, 100 functionalities. Generally, you will try to create 100 URI patterns and 100 servlets, nothing but 100 Java classes. And configuration wise also, you are going to do a lot of configuration with respect to servlets implementation. And 100 times we are writing the redundancy logic. Redundancy logic in the sense duplicate logic. Every time we are writing extents, HTTP servlet, okay, and every time servlet service method inside that servlet request, comma, response. All these things we are keep on writing for every servlet. So, but after that, but if it is Spring Framework, I told you, Spring Framework is simplified. The entire process, what you are going to do in the servlets level, they are simplified. They brought so many things. Internally, they are taking care of everything. And they are asking us, it's up to your choice, how many functionalities you are going to implement inside a single Java file. So we can define all 100 functionalities or 100 URI patterns, or whatever it is, something like login functionality, registration functionality, whatever functionality it is. So how many classes we can complete? Within one class also we can complete. So, but it's up to our choice. We can segregate. So based on the functionality, we will take one Java class and we will write down respective functionalities inside the Java class. So they are just saving a lot of time, and we are writing very less amount of Java files. That means the application maintenance will become very easy because of the writing very less amount of Java files and taking care everything at methods level. So just high level discussion. This is, we will see internally how we are going to write down what is that Java file will be called wherever we are writing this URL patterns, whatever it is, I will explain today. Okay. So after that, yesterday we understood the purpose of HTTP methods. Why we have different HTTP methods. When, at what time, what HTTP methods we have to use. So we understood very clearly. So based on the functionality, what it is doing at database level, or the functionality related to which operation of the code operation. So based on that, we are going to define the respective HTTP methods. So it's all create operation. It's representing something has to be created, or something is going to be created, or something is going to be inserted at the database level. We can call it as, we can take HTTP method as post method. Similarly, if you are doing any update operations, if you are updating any content, your functionality is updating something at database level. At the end, the entire method logic executed. Finally, database level, something is being updated. Then what you will do? What kind of functionality? What HTTP method we will take? Put method we will take. Similarly, read operation, get. Delete operation, delete method we will take. Okay. So we will use all these things as part of our examples. Now in today's session, we will focus more and more about the Spring Web Module only. So why, what and all we are going to take care as part of the Spring Web Module. Why Web Module is going to be called as MVC module. So what is the meaning of MVC? I will try to explain in today's session. Just focus here. It's very important also, the MVC architecture and everything. It will be asked in interviews. Okay. So generally, so Spring Web Module, generally people will call it as MVC module also. Spring MVC module like that. But don't think Web and MVC both are different. Both are same only. So, but officially it's Spring Web module, but people will call it as MVC module also. So, but what is MVC here? We need to understand first. Okay, so concentrate on the MVC now. So what is MVC? Model, view, okay, model, view, controller. So what is the model here? Then what is the model? What is view? What is controller here? So what? I mean, you guys know really, anyone teach you about the MVC in Servlet's time? Anyone explained about MVC? Okay. So anyway, what is model here? With your knowledge, just tell me, but I will give you the entire knowledge, don't worry. So what is model here? What is what you know as of now about the model, view and controller? Just tell me. Yeah. So where you are going to write down the business logic. Those classes are called as, or those layer will be called as model layer. I'll just come back, leave it. So what is the point here? It is, first of all, MVC is an architecture. MVC is an architecture. MVC is an architecture to create web applications. So that means MVC is not a technology. MVC is not a framework. Or MVC something is going to give you some logic implementation or something. It's not a functionality. It's all an architecture. So what is the meaning of architecture generally? So generally when we will use architectures, when we will get the use of, when we will consult the architectures in our real life, something you are trying to construct, something you are trying to build, right? So when you are making, for example, let's say here. So I'm going to construct a single house, a small house. Okay, so within 5 lakhs budget. So tell me, are we going to consult the architecture in this case? I don't think. For 5 lakhs rupees, he will ask 2 lakhs, then what you will build, right? So definitely, why we are not consulting? We know that you are just building maybe a small room, okay, just a small purpose or whatever it is. So simply, whatever analysis we have, whatever the best thoughts we know, based on that, or maybe the implementation people, whoever is actually constructing your house, the people, they will give you ideas, or you will provide ideas to them, and they will construct the house, or you will construct that room, right? So similarly, when you are having, after some point of time, you have something like, 50 CR, and you are trying to construct a house now. So definitely tell me in this case, are you going to consult any architecture or not? 100% we will consult the architecture. The reason, why can't we build on our own? Why can't we trust the implemented people? Why we are consulting the architecture? What is the advantage of consulting the architecture? Designs and all, you can get it in the Google also. But why we are consulting the architecture? What is the main reason behind consulting the architecture? I think it can be answerable by civil people very clearly. So it's all about the utilization of the space, the utilization of the amount. So what is your highest amount? What is the space you are having? Okay, what you are expecting? By considering all these calculations, architecture make a plan. So within the range, within the budget, within the space, whatever the space you are having, whatever your expectations, and based on your expectation, based on your reality, I mean, the place what you are having, at the same time, based on the budget also. Based on the budget also, he knows an idea, he knows all the subject. So how to make a plan within 50 CR budget within this place, how many floors we can construct, how many months it will take, or how many years it will take. Okay, when we are taking, based on the plan, how much amount we can afford, like 50 CR or whatever it is. So he will make a plan within the range of 50 CR, and based on your dimensions of the land and based on your inputs, whatever you are expecting it in your home inside, he will consider all these things and he will make a plan and he will give you a design. So this is what you have to make sure. This is what your plan. So this is where so and so things will come out. And like that, he is going to give you a plan. Definitely the plan, if you are following that plan, so you are going to get a best house after implementing by following that architecture, and it is going to complete 99% within 50 CR only. But if you are going to make same thing on your own, tell me what you are going to get at the end. Maybe you don't know what's happening. You're simply going and constructing. So after some point of time, the 50 CR is completed. You don't have amount, but half house is completed. So that's what. It's all about the architecture. Why you are following architecture now? To get a best result, to get a best output, to the utilization of existing space. It's all consideration of the budget, right? So there are so many factors we are considering. That's why we are going to the architecture, and at the same time, not only constructing the house, it's all about the future maintenance also. An architecture will give you suggestions in future. If you want to extend any house, if you want to implement any new things on your house, those things also he will consider. He will ask you, maybe after 10 years you are having any plan. If you say yes, based on that also, he will give you the plan. And after 10 years, you can add few other floors on your house, right? Is this the reality or not? So if you are making your own plan without knowing what is the length, without knowing what is the width, so can we make sure a long-term house, can we make sure something is being added to the new house again and again? No, right? So it is going to fail, definitely. We don't know the things. Now, similarly here also, when people are building web applications, especially enterprise web applications, what it is? Enterprise web applications. What is the meaning of enterprise? Okay, so I will give you a small idea. For example, you know the nareshit.com website, right? So is it a web application? Is it a web application? Right? So you know the swiggy.com. You know the ICICI.com or Amazon.com. So now tell me, out of all this, which is an enterprise applications, which is a simple normal application? So can I say Naresh IT as an enterprise application? It's a very small application. It's a very small website. Everything at the end, everything is a web application. Everything is a web application. But Naresh IT website is just like a static website. It's not a dynamic website. They are not dealing with per second thousands of requests or millions of requests, or per minute. They are not dealing with thousands of requests. So do you think the load coming to the Swiggy or Amazon or ICICI is going to be same for the Naresh IT also? No. It's very rare case. Per second, per minute, per hour, 10 to 15 people will access this website. And only thing is, it's only informational website. You are not doing any business activities on the Naresh IT website. So it's a simple application. So in this case, do you think Naresh IT people went to following a real time architecture and they implemented their website? No. Generally, for example, tomorrow, when we are starting our small business, are we going to the Infosys and are we going to ask them, follow MVC architecture and implement my website? For a small website, it is going to be used maybe by 100 or 200 people, or just like a care of address point of view, you created website. Are you going to ask them? No. So if you are asking them, they will ask your properties to implement the project. It's only just like 15,000, 20,000 if you are paying. Outside people will give you the website and they will give hosting space and everything, right? But when it comes to Swiggy, when it comes to Amazon, when it comes to ICICI, is it that much easy? So these kind of applications will be called as enterprise web applications. Enterprise means they are doing the business by using these websites. So what kind of business? It's enterprise in the sense it's like heavy. Based on the user base, we can say like India level or international level. For example, if you take an Amazon or ICICI, these are all websites are operating from the international level or not. So that means per second thousands of requests, per second thousands of responses, like Instagram, Flipkart, okay, Facebook, all these are what? Finally web applications only. But at the end, these are all enterprise web applications. So that means globally used, user base is in millions or billions. People will use billions of users. So those kind of applications you are going. So that means when you are implementing these kind of applications, so definitely we are going to follow the best standards, best practices or not while we are implementing these applications or not. Yes, 100% we will follow. Otherwise, the application implementation may be broken after some point of time if you are not following the good practices, or in future, if you want to add a new functionality to your existing application. So that means maintenance of the application or enhancement of the application. You are trying to enhance the new features to the existing application. The new features to the existing application. For example, you guys are using PhonePe. At one point of time, PhonePe level, how many features are there? Only thing is UPI payment. But now if you open PhonePe, how many options you are having? Many options. They are introducing, adding slowly one by one. Bill payments, mobile recharge, right? Electricity payments, bus ticket bookings. So many other third-party services they are keep on adding to the existing PhonePe application. Similarly, when you are opening at one point of time Swiggy, what is the main purpose of Swiggy at one time? Only food delivery. But if you are opening nowadays Swiggy, you can see some other options also. What it is? Grocery delivery. At one point of time, you have grocery delivery in the Swiggy website or Swiggy application. No, only food delivery from the restaurants. But nowadays, they are introduced a new enhancement, a new feature called as Instamart. By using that, what they are doing, they are delivering groceries. And still now Swiggy is added. I think, yeah, maybe. Flipkart is added recently pharma services. What is the meaning of pharma services? They are delivering medicine also. At one point of time, Flipkart is completely e-commerce, only electronics, mobiles, all these things. There is no pharmacy services. So that means your business is expanding. You are adding new features to the existing website itself, existing application itself. So there is definitely you are going to enhance your application with new features, with new functionality. So when you are having enterprise level applications, enterprise level business, do you think without following any architecture or just blindly are we going to write down the code? Are we going to implement the web applications? No, right? So in these kind of cases, generally, the most popular architecture people are going to use an architecture called as MVC architecture to create the web application. So even I know something in .NET also people will, I mean, most of the times, the terminology of the architecture, what we are discussing now, it is being followed by other programming languages also. Other programming languages, not only Java, it's an architecture neutral to any programming language. So it is being used by other programming languages also. So now, fine. I'm keep on saying like MVC is an architecture. So generally architecture is nothing but a plan, blueprint, how to implement, what are the things you have to take care, while you are implementing the plan or you are implementing your house or constructing the house. What are the precautions you have to take? Okay, what are the things you have to take care by considering the future enhancement? So based on that, you have to you have to implement your application, right? Now in this case, the MVC architecture is defining like this. So here M represents model and view represents view. C represents controller, right? So here, what is the meaning of model, view and controller? So we will try to understand. For example, yesterday, we taken a small example like this, client server architecture. So you have I have client. So just think in servlet's point of view. So whatever you know as of now. Okay, so this is Azure database. So this is database. Okay. So here, generally this will be called as user interface. A small scenario I'm taking, registration, first name, last name, like that, or login page, whatever it is. Okay. So when we are learning the servlets, what is going to happen? How we are implementing our small user registration form? Generally, what you will do? What are the steps you are following? When you implemented the servlets, you are going to implement a front end page. Like so, by using some .jsp, inside that you will write down the HTML code form, first name, last name, something like that. Registration. You will do that. After that, what you will do? You will write down servlet. You will write down. So, I'm inside servlet. What you are going to do based on the tags you used, request.get parameter of name, request.get parameter of email, like that. Whatever the values user entered here, like that you are imagining, and you are writing request.get parameter of methods, and you are taking all the values, whatever user is going to enter or whatever a customer is going to enter. So based on that, what you are doing? So inside that, so assume this is a server application now. Okay. So for example, you written here post followed by slash register or something like that. Action equal to slash register, method equal to post in a HTML. So now you are going to write down a servlet or not? So inside servlet, you will configure web servlet slash register. You will configure as a slash register and you will write down the entire logic or not? Service method or do get, do post, whatever it is, you are going to write down the logic or not? So what is the logic you are going to read? Write read from user interface page. After that, what you will do? After reading, what you are doing? You are sending to the database, right? So here the request came to the servlet automatically. Name colon Dilip, email colon Dilip@gmail.com. Password, okay, Dilip123, that's fine. Okay, so you are just clicking on the register button, automatically a request object will be generated and request went to the servlet. Now what you are doing, you are taking this data, you are reading this data, like request.get parameter methods you will write down, and finally what you are doing, sending data to DB, right? Finally you are inserting data into sending or inserting whatever it is. So finally you are inserting data into database level. So you are inserting data at database level. So that means finally data is available in the database. Dilip@gmail.com and followed by the password Dilip123. Okay, fine. Now based on the database operation, everything is executed successfully. Then it will in the servlet level, what you will do, you will inform to the client user registration is completed successfully or user registration is success. Assume some reason, some problem happened with the database. You are going to give what message? User registration is failed, or by the time already Dilip@gmail.com email ID is available. So based on that, so that means your requirement is, do you think can we create one more email ID in Gmail servers with the same email ID what I created? Right? For example, that is fine. In Flipkart also, assume you registered one account with mobile number. Can you create one more account with the same mobile number? Is it possible anywhere else? No, right? So similarly, now in this requirement also, you take an email ID as a user ID. Okay, username. So can we create one more account with the Dilip@gmail.com? But user entered one more time. He just verifying. He entered one more time. So what are you going to insert? Or are you going to cross verify his email is available or not? So second time, he is sending the same request with same data. Maybe email ID is same, second request, email is same. But at that time, are you going to insert blindly? No, right? So that means what you are going to do, cross check here, step number 1. Verify. Are you going to verify email existed or not, right? Email existed or not? If existed, what you will do? Are you going to update? Are you going to perform insert operation in the database, or are you going to inform to the client or to the front end email is existed? So we are going to give response as email existed. Please try with another email ID or new email ID, right? So this is what we will observe in every real-time application or not. Okay. So in case if not existed, email ID is not existed in your system. You verified, select a star from users where email equal to so and so Dilip at the rate. Result set is 0. That means email ID is not existed. Then you will do what? Then you will insert. Then you will perform insert query, insert the data in DB, and then inform to client as inform in the sense sending response. So what you are sending now? User registration success. User registration success, right? So have you implemented anytime this kind of functionality? It's a very straightforward, small functionality. Every trainer will give this information, okay, as an assignment or maybe whatever it is. It's a very small scenario. So you guys implemented these scenarios or not? Right? So taking data from the front end, processing, sending it to the DB. And based on that, you are giving response back to the user registration is successful, something like that. Similarly, login operations or whatever it is, right? So now, in this case, what MVC architecture is saying. So now tell me in this case, frankly, whenever you are writing connection, driver manager, register driver, connection, prepared statement, statement closing, execute, connection close, this logic you have written or not? JDBC logic. So where you written this JDBC logic? Inside service method, servlet service method you written, or are you created one more Java class and one more Java method from another class and you written logic in another method and you are calling that method from the servlet? What you did? You are getting my point? The insertion logic, the verify logic, for example, you know that you are going to write down this entire logic. You know how to write down by using JDBC select query and then insert query, fine. But this entire logic implementation, are you guys written inside the service method or maybe do post, do get, whatever it is, servlet related? Are you written inside the servlet class or in any another Java class, and you are calling that another Java class into servlet class? What approach you followed? You written everything in the another Java class and you called here you created object for that class in the servlet class and you use up that method, whatever you written, right? Yes, that is what MVC architecture is suggesting. So that means you cannot write, we cannot keep the logic, everything, whatever you are going to write down. So this logic, this functionality will be called as business logic. So what it will be called as? This verification, whatever the things you are going to call it as, what logic? Business logic. Why we are calling it as a business logic? Business people given requirement to you. So you went to Infosys and you are asking them to create a web application. Then they will ask you immediately, okay, give me your inputs, give me your requirements. I will make an application based on your requirement. So these requirements are given by the business people. So this is how my web application has to work. So user has to enter name, email, password. I don't want more details. And when email ID is existed, don't create one more account. Okay, when something like that, user given a lot of requirements to you, based on that, you are writing the logic. So this verification logic, whatever you are writing here, once request is landed on the servlet, so the verification logic. So generally, can I write down this logic in the same servlet itself? Can I write down this logic in the servlet service method itself? Yes, I can write down. There is no problem. Assume it's a service method. So can I write down directly in the service method this entire logic? Yes, we can write down. But MVC architecture is saying now understand what is MVC here it is. The M representing model. Now model is nothing but business. Model is nothing but model logic, model layer, is nothing but business logic, business layer. So that means the M representing model representing what? Business layer. So that means the MVC architecture is simply saying you have to make sure view layer, it's all view in the sense user interface related logic. Similarly, controller and then model. So here the MVC architecture is saying the requests are always coming from front end or not, generally. So the request. So that's what the view representing view. In MVC, the V representing what? View. View is nothing but what we can see, what we can view, right? View. That's why they given a word called as view. What we can see in front of our eyes. What we can see generally when you are opening the Flipkart website, what you can see in front of your eyes? You can see only user interface. Can we see what is the backend logic they written? What is the database they written? What is the queries they written? SQL queries? Can we see in the Flipkart website or Amazon website, any website? No, right? So what we can see, only thing is the front end, what they implemented. Up to some extent, what we can see, only front end we can see. The images, the colors, the logos, the description, whatever we can see. So that means whatever you can see in the browser level, those are all functionalities implemented by which technologies or which languages, can you guess? Generally, basic HTML, CSS, JavaScript, maybe React, maybe Angular, whatever it is. What we are calling all these technologies? Front-end technologies, right? User interface technologies. Front-end, user interface, all these things. Now, these are all whatever you are going to write down by using front-end technologies or user interface technologies. Those are all things comes under which layer, which concept? As part of MVC architecture, view layer. So that means here all front end is going to coming into the picture. So whatever front end it is. So the MVC architecture is saying maintain the source code. I mean maintain a component or a layer only for the front end, that will be called as view layer generally. So in entire MVC architecture, now it will be called as view layer. That means where you are writing or where you are keeping your view logic. View logic in the sense the front end logic. So you need to maintain. So now in this case, you return something like register.jsp. So can I call it as a view file? View layer, can I call it as a view file? So in this, you return servlet name as a user register.java. So user register.java, you return register.jsp. So now in this case, can I call, is it as a view layer or view page? Yes, 100% it is view layer. Now when it comes to the controller, so whenever request, you click on the front end level, the request is directly going to the servlet, right? In previous case, the request directly reaching to the servlet. Now inside servlet, what you are doing? You are writing all the logic, sending to the DB, verifying whether dilip@gmail.com available or not. You are writing lot of logic. You are writing lot of business logic inside the servlet. And based on that, you are giving response back to the front end level. But as for MVC, now tell me, your servlet is acting as a controller or not in this case? So in this case, generally as per MVC architecture, then I will go back to the example. As per MVC, this is MVC architecture. Okay, so here I will take one more DB. Okay, so the MVC architecture is saying, here it is, listen here very clearly. The front end logic you have to write down as a separate layer or as a separate class level or separate JSP file. And then once the generally requests are always coming from the view layer, always request comes from the view layer only. That means from the front end point of view. So now request is reached to the controller. As per MVC, the request always coming from view layer to which layer? Controller layer. The request always reaching to the controller layer. Now inside controller layer, understand here the MVC architecture suggestion, no business logic implementation. No business logic implementation. So what is the meaning of no business logic implementation? Is it possible to implement an application, a real-time web application or real-time application without writing the business logics, without validating, okay, user is available or not? If not available, create the user, available, email is existed, or he is resetting his passwords. So these are all things you are doing, adding the new products or whatever it is. You are doing some calculations. For example, from the front end, you are selecting some coupons, you are selecting some products. Based on that, your calculation, some calculation will happen in the background or not. The coupon is a valid coupon or not. So generally, you are applying sometimes coupons, right? So what is going to automatically in the back end level, some logic will be validated or not. So your coupon is, first of all, they will verify coupon is valid or not. If valid, yes, then they will identify the coupon value. What is the value? They will identify. Okay, assume your coupon value is 500 rupees. But actual your product's price is you selected for 2000 rupees, the order. Now you applied a coupon. If it is a valid coupon, value is 500 rupees. Then what they will do in the background? 2000 minus 500. And they will display like 1500 is your final amount you have to pay. So these are all calculations or not? When you are doing in the Flipkart level or when you are doing in the Swiggy level, whenever you are doing the coupon selections, in the background, this logic will be executed or not? For example, assume the coupon validity is still yesterday. Today you are applying the coupon. Then what is going to happen? In this valid scenario, coupon valid? No. Then what is the coupon value? 0. Then they will say like, it's an invalid coupon. So please pay amount of 2000 only. So this is all our real scenarios or not? So now this logic, can I call this entire, assume you written if conditions or whatever it is, minus plus arithmetic operators, whatever it is. So this logic, can I call it as a business logic again? Okay, this is all happening in the background level. This is all happening in the backend application or in our Java or servlet level. Okay, so think in a servlet level. You got coupon code to the servlet level. In servlet, you are verifying. For coupons, you are having separate database. Coupon values, coupon expiry. So coupon code A, B, C, D, it is going to expire on March 7th. And the price is 500 rupees. Okay, so something like that. Is it used by someone else? Something like that. Who knows? Maybe that coupon, you got it as a private coupon, but someone else, your parents maybe used or someone else used. So is it active? Okay, so something like that. I have one more coupon XYZ and it is valid until 6th March and the coupon value is 3000. So it's a expired or yes, false. It's a invalid. So that means like this, you are having a coupons stored in a table. Now in this case, what will happen? In a front end, you applied XYZ coupon. After you selecting the Flipkart products, you are applied XYZ coupon, then you are clicking on the next. Then what will happen? Automatically this XYZ value from the front end to where it will come? To the servlet. Assume servlet. So then servlet, what it will do? So you are going inside servlet. Are you going to return all this logic or not? Now assume this logic you written inside the servlet level. Then or in our Java level or in our backend application level, not at front end level. These calculations are going to be happened at the front end? No, because why backend? The data is available inside the coupons data available at where? In a database level. So front end can interact from the HTML, can I interact with the database? So in between you have a backend. That is what Java, that is what Spring, that is what servlets. That's what Java programming language, that's what backend application, right? So now this logic you written in the servlets. Or you are going and verifying in the database, what is the coupon value? I mean, first you will verify whether it is a expired coupon or not expired. If it is expired, are you going to do any calculations? No, simply you will tell it's a expired, coupon is invalid. So in this case, invalid. Are you applied now? ABCD. You will verify 7th March. Today date is 7th March. Okay, it is still valid coupon. Then you will tell him like, yes, it is a valid. So minus 500, you have to pay the 1500. So you are going to write down this entire logic or not? By getting data from the coupons table, you are going to do all these things or not? So can I consider this as a business logic now? Whatever the scenario I taken here, is it a business logic implementation or not? So this is all business logic. I can call it as the way you are writing inside the Java, connecting with the database, getting data from the database, validating if conditions, okay, calculations, arithmetic operations, percentage operations, whatever it is, conditions, true or false, whatever the logic you are writing, the entire logic I am considering as a business logic. Now in this case, MVC architecture is saying we should not write anything in the controller logic, controller layer level or controller class level. So, but in this case, what's happened in a front end point of view, the request directly reaching to the servlet. So in this case, can I call controller as a servlet? From the previous example, can I call servlet is a controller now? Yes, obviously. Because in a servlet application, the request always reaching to the servlet only, right? From the front end, always what is the first contact in the backend application? Servlet only, right? So it's always reaching to the servlet. So that's why servlet is a controller. So that's why there is a statement generally, every servlet is a controller. Every servlet is a controller. 100% every servlet is a controller because the servlets are there as a first point of contact to receive request from the front end, to receive request from the view layer. That's why every servlet is a controller. Now that's fine. So let's come back here now again. Okay. So, but I given as per MVC architecture, what MVC is saying now? Okay, so what MVC architecture is saying, no business logic implementation in the controller class. So that means you got the coupon or you got the data, something like user email or whatever it is. So now whatever the logic you know that how to write down the logic, JDBC connections, you know that. But are we going to write down that logic inside the servlet now as per MVC architecture? No. So those logic where you have to write down here it is model class is model layer or model class. Model layer is responsible for writing business logic. Writing business logic. So that means now in this scenario, the logic, whatever we are expected here, where we have to write down always inside the model layer. Or in this scenario, whatever the coupon validations, subtraction, addition, or whatever it is, that entire logic where you are going to write down inside the model layer. So here, view layer, controller layer, similarly, model layer, and it's all finally database. Okay, leave it. DB. So now in this case, what controller responsibility here it is? Forward, the responsibility of controller is forward request information to model layer. Okay, what it is? Forward request information to the model layer. So what is the meaning of forwarding request information? In this case, what is the request information I got? Name Dilip, email equal to dilip@gmail.com, password Dilip123. So in this case, what it was saying is, whatever the data you got, please just forward the data to the model layer. Just please forward the data to the model layer. So in this case, the request, whatever coming here from the front end, request body or request body something, okay? Okay, actually this request body is generated, the request body is generated from the view layer and reach it to the controller layer. Now controller responsibility is taking data from the view layer, simply forwarding to the model layer, So that means controller. Now understand what is the meaning of controller. It's only controlling the incoming request and forwarding to the model layer. And it is asking, now you are written the entire business logic in the model layer. Now model layer is going to write down the entire business logic. In this case, who is interacting with the model layer now? Who is interacting? In this case, with database, who is interacting? Model layer is interacting, not controller layer. So now, in this case, it will verify the entire scenario, whatever you taken here. So this entire thing, you are going to write down inside which layer? The model layer. That is what the meaning of writing business logic here it is. So the verification of email ID. But in this case, what you got until this model layer as a simple Java object, you got Dilip@gmail.com and followed by the Dilip123. From where you got this information? to the model layer? From the controller. Controller where, I mean, controller how it got data? From the view layer. From the view layer, when you are clicking on the register button, the request body is created and request is created and came to the servlet level. Now servlet is, so this is what the meaning of MVC. Now tell me the scenario what we discussed in the servlet level. Can I write down this logic in the servlet? Generally, can I write down or not? I can write down. But as per MVC architecture, are we going to write down that logic in the service method? No. What we have to do? You have to create one more Java class. Now that class is being called as which class? Model class. Model class. Now in this case, the servlet, whatever you written user register.java, this class is called as controller class. Now in this case, the register.jsp is called as view file. View file. I mean, these are not classes, right? Only HTML files like that we will call, right? Java class, HTML file, we will write. So similarly, in this case, what I am calling it as view file. So in this case, controller class. In this case, model class. Okay. Now overall, you are calling view layer. For example, tomorrow you return view.jsp. I mean, login.jsp. Login.jsp. One more. Similarly, how many JSPs you will write down? Only one or two JSPs you will write down in your application. No, right? Hundreds, right? Or maybe at least 40, 50. 50 JSP files you have written. Add product, new product, something. Reset password. Your front end is going to change, right? Everywhere. So, login, register, .jsp. Okay. Similarly, so on, so etc. etc. Total 50 JSP files you written. Now, this entire group will be called as view layer. That's what the meaning of layer here itself. The entire collection of view files is calling as view layer. Now tomorrow, with respect to servlets, how many servlets you will write down? Definitely, hopefully assume 50 JSPs in the sense, maybe you are going to write down 50 servlets, right? In the login JSP, they given URL pattern as /login. So that means you are going to write down one more servlet, one servlet for the login or not? Yes, obviously. Register days. So they return /register. So you are going to write down one more servlet for the register. Yes, you will write down something like user register.java, something like that. So assume you written how many JSPs? I mean, how many servlets? More than one. So assume 50 servlets. A small project point of view, we are thinking. Fine. Now in this case, how many extra classes you are going to create? Model classes. For example, now login operation. So that means in this scenario, can I write down JDBC logic select star from users where username equal to and password equal to kind of query? Can I execute from the servlet class? Can I execute from the servlet class based on the model, I mean MVC architecture? No, I should not write anything. The username, password, what you got, dilip@gmail.com, dilip123. The data is being transferred to the which class? The another Java class. Now that class is calling as model class. For example, I written a simple Java class. Model class is nothing but any other technology. It's a simple, a regular plain Java class only. A simple Java class which is having methods. So now I return user management.java, something like that. Okay, so inside this, I written a method called as login. I written a method called as login method. Inside this, what I will do? I will interact with the DB. So whether user ID is available or not, password is matching or not. Based on that, I will give information to the service class. Sorry, based on that, I will give information to the controller class. I will return information to the controller class. So now, in this case, can I write down one more method called as register in the model class? So understand guys, I am making a lot of points which are being very, very important in your entire future. So in this case, how many model classes are written? I mean, as of now, one model class I written. So can I use this user management.java in this servlet? Yes, fine. Similarly, can I use same thing in the this method can I call? I mean, this Java class or this method can I call from the user register.java? Yes, a simple Java class in any servlet I can call. How? Create object for that class, call that method. That's all. So that means when it comes to model layer, so you can write down any number of model classes. Assume you thought like you written 10 model classes. Okay, user registration point of view, user management.java, products related product management.java. Assume you written 10 model classes. How many? 10 model classes. So this 10 model classes overall calling as layer. Overall, the entire classes are representing as a layer. So that is what the meaning of view layer, controller layer, model layer. Now, overall, all these points, what you understood now, tell me. So in this, okay, now database, model layer is always going to interact with the database. And now model layer will inform to the controller layer, yes, user is registration is successful. Now that response is generated by the whom? Controller. Controller, whatever the data given by the model layer, by taking that data, controller layer is going to create a response object. And that response object is forwarded to the view layer. That response object is forwarded to the view layer. So that is what. So that means now in this scenario, understand this image is having a lot of information. No business logic implementation. But what all these controller classes are doing then? The controller layer, overall, the controller layer is doing what at the end? Take request from the front end, pass that information to the model. Model is going to interact with the DB and model performing all conditions, calculations. It will finally make a result. That result is given to the controller. Now controller just wrapping it into a response and that response is just forwarding to the view layer. That's why they given name as controller. It's just controlling the incoming request, outgoing responses. It's not doing any work. What it is doing, it's okay, I got request, forward it to model, so and so, like that. And similarly, model will do all the logic implementation. Model class level, we are going to write down the entire logic and the result what you got from the model is again came back to the controller. Now controller is taking that result, wrapping inside the response object and that response object is forwarding to the view layer level, to the view layer. That's why it is being called as controller layer. Controller layer always controlling the incoming request and forwarding to, outgoing responses with respect to different clients. With respect to different clients. This is what the MVC architecture. So what is the overall points we understood here? What is one of the most important point from the MVC architecture? The overall architecture wise, you already implemented, I know that. Okay. But the entire architecture level, what you observed, what is the one most important point? This is what. Apart from this, are you learnt anything newly when comparing with your servlets? So this is what. Writing business logic inside controller is not recommended by the MVC architecture. Now you can ask, sir, why we can't write down business logic in the controller? If you are written, what will happen? If you are going to write down, what will happen? So in the problem here it is, if you are mixing everything at one Java class itself, you don't know the problem with the either database or maybe your web server. See, HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response. Where you will see this functionality? Inside the servlet level, inside the service method. There itself you are writing some database functionality. So sometimes there itself you are writing the DB functionalities. You are mixing all these things at a place. In future, what is going to happen when you want to make sure something, for example, okay, let's do one thing. You return, I'll take a use case here. Inside a service method, you got the request. It's a servlet issue. Okay, you are doing JDBC logic. You are doing some login functionality. Okay, you are doing some, you implemented login functionality and you are generating response. Everything in one single servlet itself. Now future, for example, assume you need login functionality, some other Java classes also, some other areas also, you want this login functionality. But where you written all these things? Inside the servlets. Can you create object for the servlets manually? Can we create objects for the servlets manually? Is it recommended creating objects for the servlets manually? First of all, can we create user servlet? Okay, user equal to new user servlet. Are you anyone else told you like can we create objects for the servlets? Then how will you reuse this functionality? So you are mixing everything at one place. That is what reusability is getting reduced. Now in this case, you written one more simple Java class. Okay, and you written everything, the JDBC connection and everything in this place. Now this is a separate simple Java class. Okay, user.java or something like that. Now tell me, can I reuse this login functionality wherever I want or not? Now you have the username password in some other servlet. One more servlet you implemented. Can you call simply this logic or not? Yes. In some other model class, some other, okay, something like customer.java, I mean, whatever it is, customer.java or whatever it is. So here somehow you have to validate the customer information. Can you reuse this data or not? Can you reuse this data or not? Can you reuse this logic or not? So that is what the biggest advantage when you are making things as a separate layers. So it will become reusability is getting very high. So you can reuse the functionality when you are making as a separate components or separate things. So at the same time, in future, if you want to add a login functionality level itself, you have to make sure adding one more login functionality. For example, as of now, plain username password you are taking. For example, your business application going further, you have to implement Gmail authentication. So sometimes some websites you will see, right? You want to continue with your username password or you want to validate with your Gmail account, right? So that means you are clicking on the Gmail, they will ask what immediately? The Gmail username and password. They will verify your application is going to verify with the Gmail database this user is really Gmail user or not. Now Gmail database will inform to this application, your business application or your application, yes, this user is a valid user. He is available in my database with this username and password or with this email ID and password. Then it will say, okay, you are authenticated user. Let's proceed with your next activity. So that means your Gmail authentication or Gmail process you are going to implement. As of now, your business, your website is running only with plain username password. But somehow you realize you want to integrate Gmail authentication to your application. So that means you have to write down a new logic or not. So if it is everything you written in the servlet level itself, so is it going to be how you are going to add the new logic? So maybe we can add it. It's not like not possible. There is a possibility. But you are mixing everything at one place is going to make a lot of problems or not? Is it going to make a lot of problems? That is what the meaning of separating the layers. When sometimes in our real life also, we will keep our things in a organized manner. Why? In future, if you want to pick up very easily, right? For example, if you are having your own certificates, why can't we mix everything and just throw it in somewhere else? Why are you keeping academic school level 10+2 BTech graduation, some other certificates? Why are you keeping like that? It's just like, why are you? So in future, if you want something, simply you are going to that organized manner, you are picking the things. So maintenance is becoming very easy. Otherwise, if you are mixing all 100 certificates in a not in any order, so to pick up your small certificate, how much time it is going to take? Longer time. So you are keep on continuing the process, it is going to take the longer time. So that's why organizing the code in a different layers is going to give you a lot of benefits. One thing is especially the most important thing is reusability of the code. Reusability of the code. So that is what MVC architecture is suggesting here it is. Don't write any business logic inside the controllers. Write always inside the model layers only. Model layers only. This is what MVC architecture is suggesting here it is. Is it clear? Any doubts with respect to MVC architecture now? Why we are following MVC architecture? What is the importance of MVC architecture? Is it clear now? So any doubts until this point? Okay. So fine. This is a high level MVC architecture. What we discussed with related to Spring or Servlet. We discussed as of now servlets because you know until Servlet only, right? So now on top of this, what Spring MVC or Spring Web Module is suggesting by using this MVC architecture, I'll try to explain now. So what is the use of model layer in Servlet? Who is this person? I'm explaining from last 1 hour that point only. I don't know. You guys understood the question? What is the use of model layer in Servlet? Do I told you like model is part of Servlet? I written separate red color box. I written separate black color box. I written red color logic. I written blue color logics to make separate only, guys. Otherwise, I can write down everything in the black color. Why I am taking different colors, you know? It's all time waste process, not time waste. It represents black color something, red color something. That intention I am rating this many of colors here. It's not like it is going to look colorful. See here, why I am saying business logic, controller model. See, even I given one more example also. What is this? This is what JSP boxes. Here also boxes. Okay, so login servlet. I don't know. This is how someone else will explain you the MVC architecture in this way. So, but still people are asking what is model. I don't know. First of all, why MVC architecture is MVC. Why Kiran is Kiran? I don't know what kind of doubts you are asking. Why MVC architecture is MVC? Why human is a human? Why can't we animals? Why can't we call ourselves as animals? Okay, so let's come back. I'll explain tomorrow also. But along with respect to this MVC architecture, whatever we discussed as of now, in a high level point of view, with a servlet point of view, we discussed, right? Now, when it comes to Spring MVC or Spring Web Module, what suggesting based on this MVC architecture, I'm going to give you a small point here again. Okay, let me save it. Otherwise, all effort will go away. MVC architecture. Okay, so see here, this is what we implemented. Now, in this case, high level I will give you, tomorrow we will see again, slowly. Okay, if it is Spring Web Module or Spring Web Framework, Spring Web Module we are using as part of our project to create web applications, to write down front-end logic, back-end logic and all. If you are involving this Spring Web Module, what Spring Web Module is suggesting with respect to MVC architecture, just see here. Okay, so first of all, as per MVC, what is the first layer? View layer. And then, yes, controller layer. So it's a front end. It is back end. Okay, at the end, finally, database. Okay, it's a database. Okay, so here, as per MVC architecture, what is this layer? Model layer. What is this? Controller. Yes. And this is all about view layer. Okay, fine. So in this case, what Spring Web Module is suggesting us, along with MVC architecture, you have to follow as this. No, Kiran, DB is a front end. So DB is a back end or front end? What you learned in your front end, what you learned in your entire Java, what you learned in your SQL, Kiran. I don't know from where you are coming and what doubts you are asking. All of students today. Yeah, DB is back end only. I don't know whether it is a question or answer you are telling. I thought like question, it's an answer. But it's okay. No problem. So let's see here what MVC architecture is saying here. It is the request is reaching to the controller, right? The request is reaching to the controller and controller is going to take information from the request object and that information simply passing to the model layer. So that is what MVC architecture is saying. Fine. Then model layer is going to interact with the database. If you want to communicate with the database, any database operations, you are going to write everything in the model class or model layer. So then database will give results, set results or whatever it is to the model. Based on that, you are giving controller the result. Controller will prepare a response object with your result of model class and it is going to perform. It is going to forward a response. This is a request, right? So this is what a high level what we discussed from last 1 hour. Fine. But in this, now MVC modules or Spring Web Module is saying they are segregated this model layer. They are segregated this model layer into 2 other layers, sub layers. Overall model layer, but internally they added 2 more layers called as service layer as well as repository layer. What it is? Service followed by the where you heard about the repository? Where you heard about the repository? JPA, right? So now see here. Okay, now in this case, if it is Spring Web Module, what they did, as part of model layer itself, again they given two sub layers called as service layer as well as repository layer. Now you understood, when I'm teaching the JPA framework, I used to take a class name sometimes, user service, and then respect to user repository. Entity class level, definitely we'll create repository, right? But when I'm doing some business logic, like set to employee ID 1, 2, 3, delete all these values, why I taken the class names, now you guess it. I used to take user service, product service. The reason is this is what. Now in this case, assume you are doing user registration thing. Okay, user registration, first name, last name, gender, all this information. First name, okay, I'm not writing everything clearly because we don't have much time. I will discuss tomorrow again. Don't worry. First name, last name, email ID, password, and kind of registration things from the front end. Now this data comes to the controller layer. Now from controller layer, as part of Spring Web Module, controller has to communicate with the web module. Sorry, model layer. Controller has to communicate with the model. But in this case, controller is going to communicate with which layer? Yes, service layer. So now service layer is going to communicate with the repository layer. Repository layer is going to communicate with the database layer. So database is going to give response back to the repository, and repository is going to give response back to the service class. Now service class is going to share the result with the controller class. Now finally controller class is sharing result with the view layer. Now I'm going to say like this part we are already discussed in our till yesterday. Is it true or not? So now in this case, for example, controller received data in an object like Dilip@gmail.com. Okay, password Dilip123, something like mail, all this information. Now what it is doing? Controller simply forwarding data to the service layer. In now onwards, we can call it as service layer. But service is part of model and a high level model layer, but with respect to now what we can call service layer. Now what controller is doing? Controller simply passing this data to the service class. By the time we already written add user or register user like a method inside our service classes. Okay. Now based on that, you return your repository or not? Now what you will do? You are making this as a entity object. Now the stuff is same, guys. Now it's all JPA learning what you did. Now entity object, you converted this object to a simple, you return an entity class, what the table you are having in the DB level. Assume you are having a DB level table. You know from the table you are going to write down the entity classes. Now you created entity class and you are passing this entity to the repository. Now tell me what is this repository, what module we are using here? JPA module we are going to use here. So that's why sometimes I used to take class names as service, in the sense my intention is in future there is a layer called a service layer. People will call it as service classes. That's why in JPA itself, I used to write down sometimes user service or maybe sometimes DB operations, something like that I written, but couple of times I know I written user service, product service, all these things. But now my point here it is, before leaving, this entire logic, whatever I highlighted now, is it we are already completed or not? So what you are going to learn the entire MVC or web module level, this is what you are going to learn until this part. So that means how you are integrating view layer in the Spring framework, how we are going to write down the controller classes to replace the servlet functionalities. I mean, I told you, right? Inside one Java class, we can write down so many URI patterns, so many URI methods. Yesterday I told you, right? So many URI patterns, 100 URI patterns you can write down in how many classes? One Java. I told you there is a possibility of writing everything in one Java itself. That means now it's all controller class. I will give those details tomorrow. So this is what we are going to learn, how view layer we are integrating, what is a controller class, okay, and how you are getting requests from the view layer to controller layer in Spring MVC framework point of view or Spring Web Module framework point of view. So once your object is ready here in controller level, is it the same thing or not? You know how to pass one object to one object from one class to another class. How can you call that class object? Create object for other class, A class, B class. A is having method 1, B is having method 2. Now from method 1, I have to pass C object. to the method 2 of B. What you will do? In method 1, C equal to new C. You are having C object. Now in A class, what you will do? You will create B object, B dot method 2, something like that. You will pass C object as a method parameter. In a B class level, the method parameter, what you will define? C type. Then it's all core Java again. It's all simply Java. That's why Java is very important again. Now guess. Okay, well, just 1 minute. So how you integrated repository into, in JPA time, how you integrated repository into your operations class or service class? How you integrated? Speak. Auto wide only. Yes, exactly. Now guess how you are going to integrate service class with the controller. How you are making connectivity between the service versus controller. Auto wide. You will write down a simple Spring Bean class, a component class, and in controller class, you will write down auto wide user service. That's all. That's what the reality of dependency injection. That is what the real use of dependency injection. It's not like what you learnt in the core module level, employee address, injecting employee into address into. That's just like learning point. But this is all finally the reality. Okay, we will see. Don't worry. I'll explain everything tomorrow also. We are going to